let's go back here to the spare tire well, and we'll start the process of figuring out how we're gonna mount the amplifiers back there. Most of the time when we do one of these, it has that cool factory cover that goes here, and we're able to trace the shape that we need to go down inside of this. Unfortunately with this one, we weren't so lucky, but we have some big Mobile Solutions rings, and this one just happens to be the right arc here. It's not all the way across, which is fine. There's a flat area here in the center, so we're not gonna worry about it, but that allows us to get the measurements that we need across. And then the plan is to take this and stick on half of it, router that side, peel it off, stick on this side, router that side. Then we have some tapers here that need to happen, and we'll make the shape. Then we'll put it in, we'll press it down really hard to get this shape in it. We'll cut this shape out. My plan is to have it sit flush with this or stick up. I want this to stick out. It'll keep it from rocking this way, and then we'll make a C cover to go over it that'll hide it, and we can put 2 screws in there, and that'll hold the whole amp rack in place. We've also removed all the sides here, and the reason for that is where we're going to run our wiring. Our wiring is going to come across the back, up and around and towards the front of the car. The RCAs will be on this side of the car. A 0 gauge will be run on this side of the car. Don't go this way, because the box is going to sit there and it will get squished unless you build the floor up or the bottom of the box, which we're not going to do. It's way easier just to go this way. And of course, there's also some convenient grounds already located back here, and then one here. So it makes grounding super cool. We don't have to go up underneath the seat, ground it to the gas tank. First step is to grab some plastic. For this, we'll be using some 1/2-inch blown PVC, because I want it nice and rigid and thick, and I just want to use 1/2 inch. And we need a piece of paper to take some measurements, and join me at the saw. The piece that I need to start out with is going to be 25 inches wide by 26 inches deep. I have the 1/2 inch loaded here in the panel saw. And that gets us the first piece that we need. We'll take it over the router bench and start trimming it up. To stick it down, we'll use our Mobile Solutions double-sided tape, also known as template tape. I need to line it up with this edge and the top. Set the router height. For this, we're using a quad bearing 1/4 inch flush trim bit from Mobile Solutions. And repeat the process. That gets us that front shape. Need to add some tapers to the back here. For that, I'm just going to take another measurement of how wide it needs to be. We know it's going to come back straight like this. I need to shrink this back area down to 24 inches from the 25.5. We just need some straight edges. We have these pieces here for the animal. Line those up. That gives our basic shape. Let's test fit it. One of the joys of working on a car is constantly changing and adapting, and even though a plan seemed like a good idea at the time, you see something you're like, yeah, I don't think that was a good idea. I've kind of changed my mind on how I want to do this, but let's take a look and see how it fits. Right on the money. And the nice thing is it's at the right height. This is right where that spare tire mount is here, and I like the way it looks like this. The only thing is this is kind of weak right here. So what I'm thinking is I'm going to put a brace right here. I'll drill the hole to mount this in, but I'm going to leave it just like this. I don't want to do that C thing like I talked about, but it fit right in place. So I'll measure that height. I'll stick a piece there. I'm going to wait and do that last because now we need to figure out how we're going to mount these amplifiers. So I'll meet you over at the workbench. And the reason why I don't want to put that on yet is because when wiring up the amplifiers, it's going to be flopping around and doing all that fun stuff like a burger on a grill. I don't want to keep hitting it. The amplifier we're going to use to power the front stage is the RA90S. In typical Alpine fashion, it comes wrapped in bubble wrap. Comes with the instruction manual and the test specifications. Inside the amp, they also give you this, which is kind of unique. This is a power rating chart to tell you how long the power wire should be according to how much amperage there is being drawn. It's kind of nice. It is in meters though, so yeah. On the side of the bubble wrap, you'll find this little package right here. You're gonna need this. These are the feet for the amplifier. If you'll notice, there's no way to screw this thing down as of right now. The Alpine logo for the center of this just has a little tiny piece of hot glue on it. And then there is some tape on both sides, so you can decide which way you want this. You can spin it any way you want for making your installation easier and better. Right now, I'm gonna put this in the owner's manual bag. In typical Alpine fashion, it has some plastic ends on it, but the nice thing is these don't have to come off in order to put the wiring in the amplifier. The screws are coming in at an angle, but the mounts on the speakers at least are straight. The power has those stupid inputs that come in like this, so we're gonna have to put the amplifier on risers so that the wire can turn. On this end we have all our controls, except for the input level. High and low is located next to the RCAs here. You'll notice there's no high-low plug on this. They're gonna be done through the RCAs. Has 330 amp fuses. Positives are across the top, negatives across the bottom. 1 through 6, 1 being on the inside, 6 being on the outside. Ground, remote, battery. On the other end, all the controls. Has a bass knob input if you're going to be using this like a 5-channel amplifier. Because in the day, even though it's a 6-channel, it can be a 5-channel. Channel 1 and 2, gain control. Next is your filtering. You have off, high pass, and high pass high, which looks to me like a 10-time multiplier switch. It goes from 50 to 400 on our first set, which would just be high pass, and then high pass high goes from 400 to 6,000, picking off where this left off. Channel 3 and 4 are next. First up is input channels. This is for how you plan on feeding channels 3 and 4. You have your choice of feeding it with inputs 1 and 2 RCA, or feeding it with channel 3 and 4 input RCA. For us, we are going to be using inputs 1 and 2. Because the front channel is going to be tweeters, this is going to be mid-range. Filter, off, high pass, and band pass. The band pass will be 50 to 400 as well as 400 to 6,000. We'll be selecting band pass for this. Also going back, we'll be selecting high pass high for the front channels. For those of you confused with band pass, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting the highest frequency the mid-range will play up to and the lowest frequency they're going to play down to. And these two controls will allow us to do that. Channels 5 and 6, similar to 3 and 4, inputs 1 and 2 can feed it, or inputs 5 and 6. We'll be using inputs 1 and 2. Next is gain, and then we have low pass filter on and off. We're going to be using this as low pass because we need to set up a band pass for this as well. Just like on this where you had 2 knobs, this is going to be set up the same way, but we're going to be using our radio to complete the band pass for 5 and 6. What that translates out to is we'll set the radio's high pass filter for, let's say, 80 Hertz, and we'll set this low pass filter for whatever meets up with the mid range, usually somewhere around 350, 400, which is great because this has a frequency range of 50 to 400. And that will complete the 2 band pass filters we need, one for mid-range and one for mid-bass, which is one of the reasons why we chose this amplifier. The other is the fact that it has staggered power. It has 75 watts by 4 for the front 4 channels and 150 by 2 for channels 5 and 6, giving us that extra power for the bigger mid-bass driver. The little parts bag is filled with a bunch of little silver screws and 4 feet. These guys here, they have a little indention on them. Flipping the amplifier over, there's 2 nipples here and here. This will sit just like that. Those silver screws will screw it in place. Now that we know how this amplifier is configured, the next step is to get these screwed onto here, get the amp board underneath it, and figure out how this is all going to go together with our sub amp also. Normally when you find an amplifier like this, how it's broken down is the RCAs are on one side, and all the power are on the other side. Alpine didn't do that with this. Controls are all here. Everything else is located on this side, which is not the end of the world. they kind of give you the option to mount it in many different ways, but we are of course limited in the fact that we have to keep this hole open here for screwing this thing into the car. Which means we're going to have to go with a conventional style mount where it's gonna sit like this, and then we'll have to do all of our routing after the fact. Power is gonna be on this side of the car, so it makes the most sense to put this onto that passenger side of the car to keep all the power wire routed the way it needs to go. As of right now, that's just my thinking as of this moment. It may not, it may change. We might wanna flip it around and go the other way. It just depends on how we have to route it. If we leave it like this, one of the drawbacks is going to be the power is right here. It's going to come back, which means all our signals either going to have to do this way, or we're going to have to build bridges for the wire and have everything pass underneath it, which is the same if we spin the amplifier around this way. Now that puts our power wire at the top here, bring it all the way around, down, and then up, but it frees up all of this to not have to have bridge and takes up this area here. So I'm not sure yet which one is going to make the most sense to me. We'll figure that out. Let's see what the sub amp is going to do. We are going to be using his X-type mono amplifier to power his subwoofers from his previous install. He doesn't have all the cool accessories for it, so I might remove this. I haven't decided yet. But this amplifier has that more conventional, all the wires are on this end, and it's a narrow amplifier. We can run the power this way. The RCAs will have to go that way. Speaker wire can go up there because it's just a sub wire. So we will have to build some kind of a power bridge here for these RCAs to pass under. And then we have a distribution block, which we're going to be using the T-Spec 0 gauge in to 4 gauge out. My plan is to set it somewhere over here. Now I have to be able to get that screw in. Bringing this amp as far forward as I can really doesn't leave me a lot of room to run the 4 gauge around that way. If I push this amplifier all the way up here towards the front of the mount, I can bring this down, and if I make a piece that comes off to this side here, I can just bring the wire over. Keeping in mind that I have to raise this amplifier up because of the way these power wires are designed. It might be better for me to raise all of the RCAs and wire and bring them around this way as opposed to raising the power wire. Keep that down low. So these are the things that we constantly think about when designing the layout for this type of thing. Some people would say, well, just wrap the wire underneath, bring it over here, which is a total doable thing. I don't like to put a ton of wire underneath the amplifier. I don't mind doing the occasional thing. And there's also room up underneath this, so I could drill holes and have them just come to the back side of this. But I know most people, when we do an installation like this, people want to see the wiring. That's why they have us do it. So I think if we stare at this a little bit, we'll come up with the right answer and start prepping this thing to get it into the car.